Today, once again, the streets will be filled with members of the opposition parties demanding the ouster of President Jacob Zuma. The march has, in a way, united opposition parties' different political ideologies. But one common factor is the hatred towards the president, which unites them. But the question is that in our democratically elected setup, are the opposition parties justified in the removal of the head of state? The cause is clear. The opposition is gunning for the removal of the head of the ruling party. But are they in a way making South Africans a pawn in fulfilling their political agenda? Marches were held across the country last week too, but questions were raised as to why only marches for political purposes when real burning issues are forgotten. Let's take a look at the two different political camps which are at loggerheads. The opposition says that Zuma is running a corrupt government aimed to benefit self and cronies, while Zuma's supporters say pro-capitalist conjuring narrative of corruption is to discredit a president fighting monopoly. Those against the president say that sacking of Gordhan is responsible for the ratings downgrade in Rand fall. But again, the counter logic is that the downgrade manipulated along with the Rand's fall by regime change agents to provoke anti-Zuma sentiments. Opposition parties are gunning that Zuma has lost the right to govern after the Concourt's Nkandla judgment. But the president's supporters say that deliberate ploy to flog a dead horse in Nkandla, despite Zuma complying with the ruling.
One day we are not called junk country. One day we will be a light of hope for the continent of Africa, so that when people look at Africa, they don't say this is a dark continent. They say this is a continent of prosperity. And it starts here in South Africa. And this, fellow South Africans, is a new struggle. It's a new struggle, and we can charter a better tomorrow. We can make sure when Jacob Zuma wants us divided, all of us can say we are united. When Jacob Zuma wants us to be poor, we say no, we are not poor, we can be rich. When Jacob Zuma wants us to say we are corrupt, we say we don't stand for corruption.
The message here today, comrades, is simple. The African National Congress has a leader. The name of our leader is Jacob Zuma. We elected our leader in a conference of the ANC. We have not taken a decision as the ANC to take away our leader. So we cannot have the opposition telling us who to lead the country and the ANC. The opposition has a right to march. We gave them that right because we fought for that right. The very people who are marching today stood with R1 rifles pointed at us when we were marching. We cannot allow them to bring violence back to our country.
Absolutely delighted by the numbers, and I think it's a testament to the depth of anger that South Africans are feeling about the moves of the government the last few weeks. And I think it's the first time that people have come out on the streets in these numbers to come out and express themselves on this matter. And from a wide variety of organizations and backgrounds. This wasn't just a single political party. This is a broad movement of ordinary South Africans who are saying enough is enough. Well, I think that what you're seeing is the start of a new movement in South Africa. Bearing in mind this is not isolated to Durban today, this is taking place across the country. As citizens are starting to unite and make their voices heard, they're no longer prepared to be passive recipients of the Zuma administration, and are now starting to take an active role in saying enough is enough and we cannot carry on like this. And I think that has united South Africans across a very broad spectrum, the likes of which we probably haven't seen in post-democratic South Africa.
We are welcoming the junk status, and what we are saying is that when the economic rise, it will be held by us, the majority of this country, which is black. The people who are affected now is the business people who are white, and we don't have money, so we don't care about the status. We also welcome the reshuffle by President Zuma, in particular in affirming former leaders of the Youth League. Our message to the Minister of Finance, Comrade Malusi Gigaba, former president, don't be captured. If you clown, you're out.
So what are the issues behind the call for removing the president? Civil society groups and the Democratic Alliance are opposing Gordhan's removal despite allegations of him funding monopoly capital. But questions have been raised over the silence over Gordhan's court bid to shield the banks despite the bank's collusive behavior. The opposition is mobilizing against a democratically elected president who is pushing for radical economic transformation. But why is there no outrage over ABSA's refusal to pay back 2.3 billion rands debt to the country? The DA vehemently opposed a bid to check unbridled power in the hands of South Africa's top 5 private banks. But no protests or marches against the banks found guilty by none other than the Competition Commission of rand fixing. The Democratic Alliance, along with Gordhan, opposed Eskom's resistance to give billions to foreign-owned and non-BEE IPPs. But what about the real issues like the price fixing of bread, milk, vegetables and uniforms that affect the common man?
There was no civil society to march to Taxi Association to demand justice for the raped women. When trade unions demand a living wage for workers in our country, they are met with disdain by employers. There is no civil society march to support the poorly paid workers. When the tragedy at Esidimeni occurred and over 100 people died, the Health Ombudsman released his findings, which were devastating. There was no civil society march.
Well, joining us now on the phone line is Isaac Mahamba, the Tshwane Metropolitan Police spokesperson. A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Can you just take us through some of the routes that will be affected by the march in Tshwane area this morning?
Good morning, Kia, and to your viewers as well. Yes, we can start by saying we gave permission to the organizers to take part in the march this morning. We had a meeting with them a day before yesterday. They met the requirements of the Security Cluster, Section 4205 Gathering Act, and we had no choice just to give them permission to march. So the march will start from Church Square to Union Building. The streets that will be affected, they'll start from the corner of Madiba and Paul Kruger towards Union Building. The streets from Church Square, it will be Madiba and Tabosi Hume, Madiba and Dilengoyi, Madiba and Sisulu, Madiba and Dutoit, Madiba and Nelson Mandela Drive, Madiba and Hamilton up until the Union Building. Here you have to be aware that the organizers, they indicate that there will be people that will be bussed in from all the provinces. For instance, people that will be coming from Mpumalanga area, they will use N4 into Pretoria Street, into Paul Kruger, and they'll be dropped off at Church Square. And people that will be coming from the north, Mabopane, Harangua, Soshangu, Rustenburg area, they'll use Mabopane Highway into Eskiam Pashela, 10 left, into Nkomo up until at Church Square. We are expecting to drop them off there, and those buses will be parked for entire day at the corners of Hamilton and Madiba, and at the corners of Edmond and Madiba. So those two streets will be closed as from 11 o'clock until we finish with the march. The time that we expected the march will end is around about 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay, Isaac, for someone who might actually work in the shops or the stores or areas around the Church Square area, do you suggest that perhaps they park their car further away and walk to work this morning?
We are advising them any convenient decision that they can take for them. If it suits them, let it be so. But we are saying to the people that will be taking part in the march, we respect the right that they have to march, but we are saying they have to do it peacefully, so, and they have to also respect the rights of the people that will not be taking part in the march. As you correctly said, there are people that will be expected to conduct business. There are people that will be working around CBD. So we don't want those people to be affected by the march if they don't want to form part of that particular march. And that's why we'll be there as police, just to make sure that we assist those who will be using their cars to work. And they should do so as normally. And we are going to make sure again that those people who want to operate businesses, they should do so without any interference or without any fear. We are pleading again to the people that will be taking part in the marches to say they have to do it with respect. They have to do it with, the respect for the people that will be working for entire day in the CBD areas.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and for that information. That was Isaac Mahamba from Tshwane Metropolitan Police, just giving us insight into which roads will be affected in the Tshwane area as the march kicks off around 11 a.m. today till approximately 2 p.m. this afternoon.